Lie number 10, you can go too far with grace. Those who are afraid of the message of the grace walk oftentimes will teach that you can go too far with grace. They'll say things like, well, you can carry grace too far. Well, I want to tell you that's a lie. You can't go too far with grace. Grace is God expressing His unconditional love and favor to you and me, independent of anything we ever do or don't do. Grace is Jesus. Jesus is grace personified. So to say that you can go too far with grace is like saying that you can go too far with Jesus. No, you cannot. And the truth is, in all the times that I've ever heard somebody say you can go too far with grace, I have believed that their statement came from a fear-based motivation. In other words, they're scared. They're scared that if you teach people the pure grace of God, they might go out and commit sins. We'll talk about that in another video. That's not true either. But the idea that you can go too far with grace is an unfounded fear. You see, if a person goes out and lives a lifestyle of sin, they're not walking in grace, they're walking in disgrace. The truth is, you cannot go too far with the grace of God. Listen to the way Paul described it in Romans chapter 5 and in verse 17. He said, much more, those who receive the abundance of grace and the gift of righteousness will reign in life through the one, Jesus Christ. Look it up in your Bible, Romans 5:17. Paul said, if we're going to reign in life, there needs to be an abundance of grace, and we need to possess the gift of righteousness. Now, he said we must have an abundance of grace if we're going to reign in life. And the word abundance there literally means an overflow. It doesn't mean filling something to the top. It means filling it beyond the top so that it spills over. So Paul said we need to have an overflow of grace. You can go too far with grace? No, you can't. We need an overflow of grace, especially in the modern church, especially in the lives of Christians today who've been ambushed by legalism. As much as we say we don't want to live under the law, we're scared to death of the grace of God. But I'll tell you the truth, we need to boldly proclaim God's grace to the church world, not only to the unredeemed, unsaved world, but to the church world. We need to proclaim the grace of God, because I can promise you that even if you could go too far with grace, which you can't. I've not been in a church yet that I thought was on the danger or at risk of going too far with the grace of God. You can go too far with grace? No. That's a lie. Romans 5:17 says we need an abundance of grace. And it's when we jump in over our heads into the river of God's grace and we experience that abundance, that is when we know the victory that is ours in Jesus Christ. The abundance of grace is what the Bible teaches. And when we appropriate and embrace that for our own lives and our churches, that is a truth that will set you free in your own grace walk.